Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Mob Psycho 100 OVA. Was it REIGEN The Miraculous Unknown Psychic? It's just kind of a recap episode. Normally I would have skipped it, but I looked it up and I was like, well, it's contextualized in the series of like, hey, you're from the viewpoint of you're getting REIGEN and Mob's perspective on kind of recapping the story, which there was hilarious bits in, so I'll just talk about that. Also comes at the perfect time because, like, well, obviously it's been like over maybe 2 months or something since I finished season 1, so it kind of helped refresh my memory at the same time. I mean, I think most anime recaps tend to be contextualized in that way where you have characters kind of recapping things, but I figured I'd do it in this regard, like I said, plus the whole added bonus of, hey, I don't, it's been a little while since I finished the season, so I love that the whole point of the recap is told through the lens of REIGEN is writing a book because another psychic, her name is Sophia, ended up writing one, and she was saying like, oh, basically she heard the voice of God telling her to write this book, and she's made a lot of money, and she's a big time deal, and REIGEN was like, yo, he saw the payday, so he's like, yo, the fact of the matter is, he doesn't even write the book himself, which I'm sure maybe there's some deeper commentary there of like having a ghostwriter. His ghostwriter is Mob. And like, so he's trying to contextualize stuff. It's broken down into 4 chapters. The first chapter is kind of talking about some of the stuff we saw him do in the show, like him helping out his clients and stuff. He's talking about some of the spirits he dealt with, even though even Mob's like, wait, didn't I help you deal with that? He's like, okay, you had to fabricate some stuff a little bit just for the sake of the story. He's like, I could handle that stuff, but I chose to let you do it because I didn't want to unleash my powers. And I love where it's like Mob has the mob explosion and he built up the percentage. The REIGEN's percentage is fabrication, and that's going up the entire whole hour-long thing, which I love. But yeah, like him kind of like initially, like chapter 1 is him trying to paint himself in a nice picture, and then chapter 2 focused on like Mob stuff, about like some of the fights he was in and stuff like that. And you know, obviously like he's taking time to try and write. Mob, you know, is taking the time to write this whole book. So obviously there's the stuff REIGEN focuses on, but like the entire second chapter is all from Mob's perspective, and it's more about, you know, contextualizing the stuff between him and Risu and kind of recapping that. Because he's also, you know, REIGEN's also trying to put, because he was like, right, I wanted to kind of give things a certain perspective. So he's like, because Mob's like, oh, am I not going to be in this story? And he's like, yes, you have a certain role in it. So like, that's why I guess he gave Mob like free reign with like his chapter. Because it's like, right, do what you want to with it. That's your way of, that's my way of putting you in this story because you're my disciple. Even going to the point of like recapping when REIGEN met Mob and everything. So, and obviously recapping some of Mob's exploits and battles, but obviously it's like, yeah, those were things Mob handled, but normally I would have handled them, but it was a good challenge for my disciple to go through. I know it was tough, but I had to put him through that so he would grow, you know, spewing his typical BS. So, and even Mob's not getting that much of it. He's like, oh, I'm going to get my normal hourly rate is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get 0.2% of like residuals from this. It's like, Jesus. And I think Dimple was like, that's even lower than the sales tax. It's like, yeah. And Mob just happily takes it because he believes in his master, you know, that much. But the most egregious thing that REIGEN did during this whole situation was he would constantly imprint himself in the story in points he wasn't there, especially all the claw stuff. Like the fight, what was it, Taruki's versus that guy with the psychic whips, was his name Torada? Like making it seem like, right, it's Taruki's body, but you just like basically Photoshop REIGEN's head on, like a giant bobblehead size REIGEN head on top of it. And even at one point, he literally replaces all of Taruki's character with his own character model. He does that again later on when Dimple was fighting the Scar guy who has the who controlled the spirits, and like I was like, I love that. And then constantly throughout the whole claw situation, he's also inserting himself, literally editing himself into scenes he wasn't there for. I love it. Like, oh, when Mob were fighting the 2 ladies, and he was like, yo, I don't want to, you know, my master told me, like, if a guy hits a woman, makes him like the worst of the worst scum. And he pretends like he was there during that scene and stuff like that. I love how, and even like when Ishiguro like lost his shit at the end, and Shio, was it Sho or Shio? shows up, the kid that apparently his dad's the boss of Claw, ended up like taking him down, but like Regan put a bobblehead over Shio's head and like made it seem like he's the one that beat the big bad. Yeah, because he tried to say, like, when Mob was, like, about to go berserk, he's like, yo, I calmed everyone down. He's like, in that moment, I had to use my real power. Because previously, he was like, oh, I had to seal away my power. I was just like, oh, Regan, you're so terrible. And so, obviously, everything played out. It's so ironic, too, because I didn't think about it until Regan was reading a book later, that it's like, right, during that whole Claw sequence, he was trying to drag everyone back to reality by breaking their dreams. Like, everyone in Claw with their whole dreams of, well, at least the 7th Division, with their dreams of, like, world domination, shattering those dreams. But then you have him, like, you know, not living in reality, being delusional himself. So that just was so, that's the hypocrisy behind that character. But either way, I love that Mob is finished writing and everyone's congratulating him for being so dedicated to it. So it's like, cool, you did it, great. And then like, right, like everyone's helping out. It's like, oh, I could help print these out for you. Taruki shows up, Risu, it's like, and Dimple, it's like, yo, we could read over the book. Yeah, books need to be proofread. Everyone's excited to read it, and then they start reading it more and more and more, and they recognize the horse shit that the book is, trying to paint him, you know. Because Taruki came from the perspective of, hey, we don't want to, like, jeopardize your master's reputation, so we want to make sure everything in there is factual. I was like, ooh. I thought, like, Regan was going to show up being like, you don't have to do that. But, because I was about to say, last thing you want is that book published like that. And who knows if it would have worked out even if it was published. But basically, everyone had him rewrite it to actuality of what the actual canon of the series is. Or everything that happened that was Mob and Taruki, like anything that he inserted himself in. I even love Regan's like, I basically, it's an embarrassment because I'm literally on the front cover and I'm basically now just a footnote, a bonus little section at the end of the book. That's all I've been relegated to, you know? Because it's like, yeah, everyone wanted the book to be as truthful as possible. And I love Regan reading the book where it's like the percentage was in like the 90s as his fabrication and it dwindled back to 0, which I love that. Where it's just like, yeah, it's always about getting Mob popping off at 100. Now we have Regan kind of being slapped back into reality down to 0%. As well, let's check out, you know, crowdfunding, because I forgot to talk about that. He crowdfunded for the book, you know, be able to get publishing and stuff for the book. And there's only like, their goal was like, wasn't it like 2 million, I think was like the goal, and they only got 1% of that, which is 2,500 yen. And we find out later on he uses it to buy ramen for him and Mob, and he was like, oh, it was my money to begin with. My initial thought was, hey, yo, like, that's not how that worked. I mean, because it depends on, you know, what crowdfunding source you use, whether or not you have to like return that money or whether you get to keep it. Like for example, like Kickstarter, whatever you don't, if you don't meet your goal, it has to all be returned. I don't know if it's still around anymore, because I hear about Kickstarter, I don't hear about Indiegogo anymore. But that was one where it's like, whatever you make, you do get to keep. Whatever gets crowdfunded for you, you do get to keep. Those are like the only two I know, but I'm sure there might be others, but those are the main ones I'm aware of. But either way, like I said, I don't know if I've never looked into the Indiegogo, but like I still hear Kickstarter, but I don't ever hear anyone talk about Indiegogo anymore. But either way, like I said, I thought like, ooh, that's going to be a problem for you later on. You taking that money and spending it on ramen. It's like you are like obligated to spend that money on the project, even, you know. So, but it turns out, oh no, he meant that literally, because it was his own money he put in there, because he's like, yeah, it's a plant. He's like, no one wants to be the first one to donate, which I was like, that makes it actually even sadder. The 1%, the one donation you got was your own money. That makes it even sadder, because he's like, yeah, no one wants to, like, it would have, so that means it would have been 0, because it technically is 0, because it's your own money. So he's like, yeah, I took that money back, and it went back in my pocket, and I spent it on this ramen. He's like, yeah, it's a plant, it's the oldest trick in the book, and Mom's like, for what? He's like, oh, no, what was I even talking about? Like, the fact is, he doesn't even feel bad about it, right? Like, knowing how much of a, that was another thing. He was like, basically, the book makes me look like a con artist. It's like, yeah, because you are, you hypocrite? Once again, you're getting on Claw's case about them needing to recognize they're commoners and that they're part of the masses and getting them out of their delusion. But here you are, you hypocritical, delusional bastard. So I love that whole comedic context to it. So that was just kind of a great takeaway from all this. It was just a lot of fun, especially the ending where it's just like it literally rewinds the entire recap and everything that he changed. It just immediately like, oh, this character wasn't actually. Oh, let's remove Regan's head from this. Oh, he wasn't actually in this scene. Let's remove him from this scene, and all the stuff he claimed to accomplish and do, which I love that. So it's mainly like the later chapters that are the most fabricated. 1 and so were as well, but because he chose to only focus on his contribution, not as much what Mob contributed, like especially in the first chapter, which was, like I said, the stuff he was up to. I mean, he did help out his clients, but that was still all BS. Like some of the more spiritual stuff, it's like, well, Mob helped with that. But yeah. So I just thought that was kind of like a little fun thing. So I just wanted to kind of still talk about it regardless, even though it's just, like I said, mainly a recap episode. But I do love the comedic, like I said, framing device for it. So. But yeah, like the time is to finally dust this all off and finally jump back into Mob. So do expect those going forward. I might watch some episodes today. I'm not going to promise anything. This probably won't be going up until tomorrow at the time of recording this. But yeah, I'm going to try and get back into Mob because once again, the series is finished. So, you know, I just got sidetracked with other stuff and just didn't circle back to this like I wanted to. But yeah, I'm going to be circling back to Mob and continuing that and try and put out like one a day until like I'm finished with the entire anime. So, but yeah, I've run my mouth off long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.